Welcome back. My name is Trinice. We have Darren here, and then we also have one of our founders here. His name is James Henderson, and we have a special topic today. James, would you like to lead us off?
The special topic today is Black Wall Street. As you well know, or maybe some of you don't know about what Black Wall Street is, and we're going to have a discussion about that on this afternoon.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So, we're going to talk about a couple of things that occurred during that time, but we're going to give a little bit of an exposition, which is a background per se of exactly what happened. Um, it's actually some interesting facts. Is Booker T. Washington? He actually was one of the persons who coined the name Black Wall Street, originally called Negro Wall Street. Actually,
Okay.
yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, I thought we were going to be having a guest today, but
Yeah. He
it's
opted
okay.
out.
He opted out.
Last
Hey,
minute.
Amen. Amen. It's okay. So we, did a little research and everything, and there was several interesting things that I came across, and I found rather interesting in dealing with Wall Street, and so it prompted me to, for Black History Month, it prompted me to ponder the question as to several things. How number one being how it affects us today
Yeah.
in business as well, and then also if Black Wall Street had survived,
Yeah.
where will we be today?
Yeah.
So if you have questions and you want to call in, please feel free to do so. The number is 678-638-6626. That's 678-638-6626.
Okay.
Awesome. Awesome.
So I kind of want to take the time to like discuss exactly what occurred. So uh, this occurred in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, specifically in the Greenwood district. So that's where it specifically occurred at. One day, a young man who normally goes to a restroom in the Drexel building, he went to the he attempted to go to a restroom, the color restroom, and get a sip of water at the color water fountain. And there was a white young lady who is the elevator attendant, and he normally, interacts with her. But on this day, it was just him alone, and she was there, and he knows not to get on the elevator like with a white young lady by himself. He knows that could particularly cause trouble and harm. So he decided to get on there because he just did not want to be late for work. He wanted to get back to what he was doing, and the elevator after the elevator got back up on the regular floor, she screamed, and then from there the media took it off as if he raped her or a lot of other things occurred, but nobody specifically knows what occurred on that elevator, of course, but them two. And from there it started a lot of pandemonium. We had so from there he was of course arrested, and then we have some white terrorists, as I call them, no different from what happened at the Capitol, came to actually attack and lynch the guy. And of course, we stand together, and the other African Americans who were living in that community stood in protection of him. And from that moment, it started a big pandemonium. Actually, it was a struggle between two people where a white man was shot, and when the white man was shot, that's where it begun. It became violent. Most people who died during that time was actually African Americans, and nobody know the aggressors who were the white Americans. They did not. None of them went to jail, but it was actually quite a few African Americans that went to jail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And there was up now the number of people that died. There was close to 300, right?
Yes.
They
And
estimate
1,000
300.
injured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1,000
Yeah.
injured. Yeah.
And then on top of that, there was 21 restaurants, 21 churches, 30 grocery stores, a couple of movie theaters, photography studio,
Absolutely.
clothing stores, meals, dentist's office, banks, private airplanes, post office, hospitals, schools, the school system that they had set up in place at the time as well, doctor's offices and churches, as I mentioned. So their community the black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma was set. They had what we would call today a mall
Yeah.
or a strip mall or the equivalent thereof. which goes to one of the questions I had posed earlier. Had Black Wall Street survived this ordeal, had this never and had never taken place, you can only imagine how far advanced people of color would have been
By far.
by a long shot. You know what I'm saying? There would have
Yeah.
been a lot
Absolutely.
of we would have seen the growth of
Other communities. that wanna
not
be
only
like
other communities, but you would have seen what today is strip malls, but they would have already been established and in place
Yeah.
long before strip malls were strip malls. You know what I mean? And today, what you see is in different communities, you see a strip mall with the Koreans, and everything is Korean owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the stores. You see the same thing in Hispanic communities.
Little China,
Yeah,
little France, little
Yeah.
Italy.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
by far.
y'all know where I'm going with this. And but the thing is, we don't see it in our community.
Yeah.
Because in our community, you'll find the strip malls that belong to everyone else.
Yeah.
And even if it's not in a strip mall format, you'll find it in the format of you'll see the various liquor stores, you'll see it in the various hair salons, or not salons, but the beauty supply stores.
Exactly.
And so when we talk about the black money
Yeah.
and how much we put into circulation,
Yeah.
and no matter what community you happen to live in, a black dollar is still a black dollar.
By far.
But it's not ours.
Yeah.
It doesn't circulate back into our community.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to make sure that we are cognizant of when it comes to doing black business. You have Shop Black, which is online. What's it? I can. There's a
Yeah.
couple more
Yeah.
others out
It's a
there.
plethora of them.
Yeah, there's a plethora of them nowadays.
But we have to make sure that as we continue to do business, that we can continue to do business black.
Definitely. I agree. You know what's interesting about that is, a lot of people don't, first of all, this is a little known. This is historians of the United States say that this event, and as violent as it was, is one of the most little known events that ever occurred. It's not widely taught in school. In fact, I didn't know about it. And, I'm at the close of my college career, and, I had to go seek that out to learn that. So, in order to repair and try to grow, we have to understand the history that we came from. But, that's besides the point. I'm digressing. Particularly what's more important is the fact that this was an opportunity for us to develop generational wealth.
Exactly.
And this was an opportunity to, like you said, put more money back into the black community. Black people of African-American descent already have a hard time, securing loans or securing any type of financial funding from financial institutions. So that already, is a complication. So with if you look at it, white slave owners, when slavery was abolished, if you will, when it was abolished at the time, there was money circulating back into the slave owners. If you lost the money from slavery, no money was given to black individuals. It's the same with Tulsa. Of course, they won a Supreme Court case, but Tulsa never rebuilt it. Never rebuilt. So, yeah.
When they did, it just became entertainment. Not really
Yeah,
building
like it never got to where they were before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it is funny because Tulsa is not the only place
Oh no.
this occurred.
Yeah.
There are several other cities here in the United States where Slocum, Texas comes to mind. Is it Idlewild? Rosewood, yes. Down in Florida. Let's see. Seneca Village, North Brentwood. Let's see here. These are, of course, I had to do a little research and found that, Rosewood, Florida, sustained by its cedarwood production in 1920, was self-sufficient. Slocum, Texas, and known for its East Texas oil fields, and have been one of the largest in the country. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Seneca Village, Central Park, 1825, when it was established. And the town had 250 residents living there. Eminent domain took them out. That's the government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
eminent domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can happen. And I'm sure it happened in in more African American affluent communities at that time. Now, don't get me wrong, it can still happen today, but you don't hear about it nearly as much. You know, and they'll take over. Usually today, it's just they won't take your whole property. It's just a portion, so they can put the road in or a sidewalk in or something along those nature.
Absolutely.
Right. North Brentwood, Maryland, 1924, had its own government and schools and more. It had over 800 residents. They built a levee there to stop the flooding. So in North Brentwood, Maryland, Weeksville, New York. Now these are some of the places that hadn't heard of, or even stories I hadn't heard about. Which is, I guess today is now considered Bedford. Yes, in 1838, when it was established by a black freedman by the name of James Weeks, and he purchased land from another black freedman, and it was one of the largest communities of blacks in the pre-Civil War era. Blacks were for all blacks that needed safety.
Yeah.
All right. Mount Bayou, Mississippi. Hadn't heard of it. Another one. You've heard of it?
Yeah.
Okay. 1887, population of 8,000, with banks, schools, churches, and newspaper system and self-help. Blackdom, New Mexico. Now, of course, blacks in New Mexico seems kind of far-fetched to begin with as it is, right? But to have a community there in was the first all-black community in New Mexico with 300 residents and had 15,000 acres of land. Cotton, onions, cantaloupe, and much more were grown there. So, so we have to understand the kind of what we were able to contribute to society back then.
Yeah.
And when you look at it then and what we are able to contribute today, and these are the kind of things that we need to look forward to and continue to strive for in our communities, and being able to get things not only accomplished in the betterment for self in our communities, but as you made mention of earlier, about having a legacy. And that kind of, leaving a legacy for your kids and for your family, we should all be able to strive for that in one form or another. But you need to be able to, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we need to be able to say that we set some goals, we accomplished them, and we left an imprint in our community. We should all be able to be wanting to strive for that kind of ideology, if I could use that word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that we have to get comfortable with spending a little bit more money. I think that's why some people veer away from black businesses, because they know we don't own the textile companies or the foundational things.
Absolutely.
So it's going to cost us a little bit more money to produce them. So it's going to cost us a little bit of money to sell them. So you might spend $1 for a toothbrush somewhere else, but to buy a black-owned toothbrush, it may be $2.
Right.
Because simply we have to go through different processes. We don't have the connections that other people have, and the longevity of working with those companies to get discounts.
Yes.
So I feel that sometimes we just got to get comfortable with saying, like, I'm willing to spend that extra $1 to support somebody that looks like me or share the same, similar story to me.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because that's really, really important point that you bring up. We don't own the manufacturing companies to make this happen.
Yeah.
And until we can spend and until we do, we have to spend the extra dollar in China for the same product that our white counterparts have to, and we spend an extra dollar or two more to make it happen. But there, as we continue to move forward in life and continue to strive, and as we continue to gain knowledge of self, we're able to do better. And when we know better, you know what I mean? And that's one of those things that, as far as I'm concerned, I would definitely say this to people: shop black, because you're not going. And please, don't be looking for the discount right away. You ain't spent a dollar and with us, and we get it. It's a little bit pricier than what you would pay with our white counterparts, but you're not asking the white counterparts for the same kind of discount or the same type of deal. The price that is set is what it's set. If we choose as business owners to be able to give a discount, then that's great. We know what our bottom line is and what we can and cannot do, and it's not going to be able to be applied across the board. But we have a tendency as people of color to be looking for the hookup. Okay, but you don't ask for the hookup when you go to other establishments, and that's one of the things. And so you are in essence wanting to shortchange us in that manner because you're not applying the same shopping principles as a consumer across the board. And you want to do, yes, you want because we look alike, you want the discount and everything, but you're not asking that of someone who doesn't look like you. And we're in business
doing
the same exact thing. So yeah, we want to try to keep it fair across the board for everyone, and we try to keep our prices reduced. But please know and understand, we don't have textile industries in our possession that we can where we can get a discounted price for that dollar toothbrush and hairbrush and whatnot. And so it doesn't quite work out the same. So essentially it means that our prices are a bit higher, a dollar or so, 50 cents, $1.25, whatever, bit higher than our competitors. But at the same time, we still have to continue to shop black. And it kind of creates a conundrum, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
Because most people, they're going to spend that extra dollar on something meaningless most of the time anyways. People always act like they're saving money like that, but most people aren't really saving in the sense of like intentionally.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm going to save this dollar because I'm going to be putting this into an investment fund. So it's usually like I'm saving this dollar just to save a dollar, and it's literally going to go down and be spent somewhere else anyways that didn't contribute to the community.
To the community, yeah.
So what I want to talk about, and one of the things that was interesting because for Tulsa, they actually had manufacturing. One of the biggest things that they were doing was oil and mining itself. So it's like when you think about that, and when you have a black community itself, and let's say if you choose not to spend your dollar at one store, one what have you, if you still spend it in, let's say, a black community, you're still helping the local economy. And therefore, if it's a black economy, essentially, then you're still helping the overall premise of black dollars, helping black people. So, so it's that I keep in mind. And it's also like, of course, we don't have the manufacturing for mass production or what have you. Mm-hmm. But it's like you said, once we give that money to those corporations, they will be able to try to attempt to secure the resources to be able to start the mass manufacturing. So but I think that a lot of this goes a little bit deeper. We look at, for example, I know I'm probably going beyond the premise of the scope of the premise, but like, for example, if somebody commits a crime or what have you, and it's a black person, let's say they're robbing, somebody break into my car, a black person. Why? And a lot of crime, a lot of the time is, unfortunately, statistically speaking, it's going to be geared towards a certain skin color, not just black people, but minority. Why why do we have a system where it's an inequitable wealth gap? Like, why is that? And if like, and we can connect this back to incidents like that, where when we try to, equal the playing field, whereas so we don't have to do stuff like that, you kind of break us down, you take from us.
Yes.
So that's a huge part. A lot of people don't think like you trying to strip the layer and try to get into the grit of it and figure things out. But yeah, and that's something that Sean, which is one of the other founders, was actually speaking to me about, and that conversation is coming next week, hopefully. And yeah, yeah,
It's hard to make an equal playing field because it's control, it's power, it's
yeah,
things that go behind it.
absolutely.
So I get it, and I feel like the reason why they were able to do that back then is they were forced to.
Yes.
They didn't have an option. It was like either we build with each other or we gonna literally just be under somebody else's control.
Yeah,
So I think if we build that type of atmosphere in today's society, like
we'll be unstoppable.
yeah, it's kind of like you vibe with them, or I hate to say that you have to put that pressure on people, but you do because people work better. Some people do work better under pressure. Some people crack. For those people that do crack, I'm sorry, you probably didn't meet them in your circle anyway.
Yeah,
right.
And let's talk about this while we're here. Stop putting black dollars into corporations who don't like black people. Let's talk about it. Let's stop that.
That's real talk right there. Yeah, because there was a
Chick-fil-A too. Well, let me not say we didn't say that. We're gonna strike that from the record. But you know what we meant. You know what we meant.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
In the fashion industry, we know who you are in the restaurant, fast food industry.
Yeah.
Okay, we do not need to call you by name, but you know who you are. It's on record.
Yeah, exactly.
It is on record, and with that in mind, and one of the things that I've been hearing and seeing bits and pieces of, we have been, as blacks in general, as African Americans in general, have been making strides individually. You hear about your black pilots, female pilots, black business owners owning a business at gas stations. I just recently heard, and I haven't had a chance to check it out myself, but recently heard of a mother and daughter team that just purchased and are now owners of a black gas station. These are the kind of things that we need in our community when it comes to building, not only building, but growing our community in betterment. And they're great examples of what we are looking for in our communities. Having the gas station, having one of the things we hope to see next would be the hotels that we own. Well, starting off small, of course. It may be something that sit next door that's a little rundown, next door to that old drive-in, but it's a start.
Yeah. It's a start.
But you have to put the few dollars in, and of course, there was a movie. What was it? The Black Book or Green Book or something, where the gentleman he only could stay at the hotels that were in that book. That is, although it seems like it has gone away, we can certainly use something like that now as a guide to when you are traveling out of the state to whether you're flying to California or to
New York,
New Mexico, or wherever we are, as to where the restaurants are located. Now, they're online. But sometimes you just don't have maybe you are using a substandard cell phone apparatus, and you can't get the signal that you need. You can't pull up where black businesses are located. And people tell you, oh, you don't want to go to that neighborhood. Why not? That's where the best food is at.
Yeah.
Also, out of convenience too. Some people don't want to go on Google. You build an app for it, it's more convenient as well. Kind of makes them just feel more apt to go to it. Because we go to apps easier than trying to go to Google.
Yeah.
Look it up. Then we got to click on it. Then we got to read over it. it's easier if it's just all compiled in an app too. If
Yeah.
you
That's
had
true.
a directory just for all black restaurants when you go to
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree. I
Absolutely.
agree.
So these are the kind of things that are needed. Um, and I tell you, it's amazing to see. When you after you read the story and you've done some research on your own, folks, as to you've heard about Tulsa, but it's only been a footnote in your history book for the most part. It was just a footnote, small paragraph, or but there's so much more. And the reason why it's only just a footnote because the media did not shed a light on the incident to begin with. May 31st, what they say, it was like an 18-hour ordeal that started May 31st in 1921 into June 1st of 1921. In what, 35 city blocks were burnt down, and all those businesses that I mentioned earlier were burnt down, and at least 300 people lost their lives, and we don't know how many more. But in each incident, whether it be Rosewood, Slocum, and all the other cities that we named off before, there was a lot of bloodshed spilled, a lot of blood spilled, and it was ours.
Yeah.
And it was ours, and you don't
Multiple.
hear about it. You really don't hear about it, which is why I feel it's so important for us to know and understand, because Newbie Corp is a black-owned business that helps black-owned businesses, or even help you get started with your business. Black Push is helps with sheds lights to social injustices where we can not only learn and grow, and I will use this word, and legalese, and then understanding law and the fine print
Yeah.
of what we sign, and how it works against us if we're not paying attention to the fine
Absolutely.
print.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get caught up, especially people of color, because see, I may have one contract for our counterparts, but have another contract for people of color.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to go ahead and infringe on and use this word redlining, and I know that's a topic that's coming up in the very near future. But this is one of the things that the banks have subscribed to over the decades, and actually, come June of this year will be an entire century will mark a century for a come May 31st and into June will mark a century for this event, for Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Awesome. Looks like we got a call in. How you doing? Hello?
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Darren, Trinice, James.
Good. Hey, how you doing, sir? Thank you for
Good.
calling
this
in.
topic is really cool.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Do you have any comments on Black Wall Street or anything you'd like to add to the conversation to further it?
One of the things I found interesting, I had a chance to read the article, I think, that James had given me earlier this week. I do agree. One of the things that we have to start doing is we have to start investing our black dollars to black businesses. But at the same time, we have to, when we get angry, we can't be black. We can't be what they were to Black Wall Street to our own black community, if that makes sense.
Got you.
And when we had George Floyd going on, one of the things that really upset me and really kind of depressed me was that there was African American people, even in the city of Atlanta, there were African American people who have built like their homes and their businesses over years, and those are businesses that we were tearing down as well. Even though I'm not co-signing for tearing down any business, but we definitely can't burn down our own community.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
We just got to get smarter about the way we spend our black dollars, man. We're the largest consumer in America of like in when it comes to spending money, we spend more money than any other race. But at the same time, we invest in people who don't really care.
Precisely. Yeah.
And we got to get better.
I agree, and you made a very valid, interesting point, and we have to realize that we have to protect our black businesses, and and of course, not everything is not every single thing that we can purchase is not manufactured or made by a black person yet. There's still some things that you can only find in like in another race, hands or what have you. Sorry to say that's the best way I can kind of like digest that in like in a comprehensible manner. So but like for example, like certain things you might just have to buy from a certain corporation. So I definitely understand what you meant by that. Hmm.
Yes. It's this topic, I tell you, it goes so much deeper, and we're just scratching the surface, giving it just speaking on it just today. And I just realized that we're talking almost 100 years ago when this took place. And when you look at the the progress that we've that what we've had to deal with, the progress that we've made has been pretty significant. But there are also like he pointed out that when it comes to violence in our own cities, we do attack our own businesses for whatever reason. It really doesn't make any sense. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is what's taking place.
Yeah.
So how do we push past that?
I'd say
I think part of it too is knowing black business, right?
yeah.
A lot of times we go into communities and we don't know that it's a black owned business. Knowing how great our community is and how much, like for example, I think some other day, there's a washing powder company. Literally, they make washing powder. They're a black owned company, and they're literally based out of Atlanta, right? Most of us don't know that, right? One of the things I found interesting today, I was watching. I'm at my goddaughter's birthday party. They got a school, and I was so excited because I just learned like 2 weeks ago that the ice cream scoop that we use every day, was invented by a black man.
Yeah.
So it's like just knowing like where our black businesses are. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times even when we go in our communities, we don't know where they are. We don't know our black owners. I think publicizing them more, making sure that people understand where they are, and making sure that people are going back to where it all started. To be honest.
Yes.
Definitely agree. Also, not Xing them out after they like one bad, visit or like one bad complaint, because a lot of times that's what happens too. They say the customer service maybe poor or something was wrong.
I'm not
Think
gonna
we should
lie. I
get
won't shop
better.
there if it is bad customer service.
Oh, but I mean,
Have you,
I
I,
think I
I've
think
been through some bad experiences one time. One
what
time,
with like what you just black businesses something
no,
like
not,
that.
I would never say it's black business. I hate that black businesses are attached to that. It's a bad stereotype. But I don't think it's a black business thing. I think it's just a business thing. Like some businesses working on customer service. There's some white businesses or Hispanic businesses or whatever that has bad customer service. I just think that it's just that particular business that probably needs to work on that. But it's not like a black or a race thing per se.
No, I'm just saying. I was saying because you said you had some experience.
Yeah, I did. But
Oh,
I
that's what I
just
was gonna say.
yeah,
Instead of X them off, just kind of put in comment cards, kind of give them suggestions, because
yeah.
a lot of times people just X them off and they don't give them any type of info for them to take away with.
I
I feel
agree.
like that's more fundamental than just Xing them off. Just
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I'm gone. You did one bad thing."
Hmm.
If you know the solution, I feel like you should offer it then.
Yeah.
The man is like, "Yeah, offer the solution so we can a betterment to the community instead of just saying, oh man, look,
Yeah.
bad service, I'm done."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah.
I think it goes a little deeper than that too. Perception is 9/10 of the law, right?
Yeah.
I believe in that. It's the way we have put in our head.
Yeah.
Right? When we think about black people, we think that they're always disrespectful. So even when they're not trying to be, it's because of the fact that we have that perception already in our head about our own community. That we already we go into most restaurants with the mentality that we're gonna have that service, and if they do one thing off, where we would be more apt to give like a Red Lobster or whatever. All these different restaurants we go to all the time. That's our opportunity. We be like, oh, this is the reason why we don't deal with black people. Like, that perception in our mind has to change as well.
Definitely.
And like Darren said, like if you have a complaint or if you have to help them out, do their service. Go in there, write on that Google. Like, you know what I'm saying? Say, I'll try out again. I remember I think Brother James was at one time. We went out to celebrate Pastor Bishop Ramon's birthday. and we went to a black-owned restaurant. We had a terrible experience. Terrible experience. Am I right, Brother Jimmy?
Yeah. Oh, yes, 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 absolutely.
Get called, everything. It was trying to, the girl was trying to, Bishop Ramon was walking up to her, he was walking up opposite way. She was getting on the phone calling her family to come up. It was crazy. And they didn't, and I'm just sitting there, right? And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, let's keep taking notes, keep taking notes. And they didn't even know, like, I knew the guy who owned the restaurant. I had his personal cell phone number. And I reached out to him after that, and he invited us back on an opportunity. And we went back, and they had the same people who served us. So once again, we had to be willing to give them that opportunity. You understand? Like, even if you have a bad experience, teach them, grow from it, and move on. Like, we do it all the time with other restaurants. Why can't we do it with our own community? Why is our own community have to be stigmatized so much for be looked at so much differently than any other restaurant?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world. When you have those kind of experiences, and the truth of the matter is, that may not be every visit. You go once, you have a bad experience, but that might be, you might think of it as bad because you were having a bad day. So everything was bad for you that day. Or your server might have been just having a bad day. And it showed. And yeah, that does reflect on the business, but that's only a small portion of the fact that you may or may not have a good experience. That individual may be having a bad day. And we have to take that into consideration when we want to point the finger. Because what if you're having a bad day and you show up to the restaurant, you can make you set the tone for yourself at when you sit down to the table. If you tripping with the server or the bar or whoever you're dealing with there, you're causing it a difficult situation for them to be able to deal with you. And it's not so much, oh, they were terrible waiter or waitress. No, you were just a bad customer. And so we have to take that into consideration when we, especially if I'm listening to you, Trinice, and you're saying, man, it was horrible. I got to know who I'm dealing with who it's coming from. If I know you to be a bad type of person and everywhere you go, you're the common denominator at all these restaurants.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
You always seem to have a bad experience. That you're the common denominator. I have to take that into consideration when I sit down and we go sit down to eat somewhere, and I go, well, he's always having issues
or into with somebody at a restaurant. Yeah, that makes
and
you have to person.
You have to know. Sense. You have to know where the kind of people that you're dealing with, and what your personality, and what your quirks are, and what you can handle and what you can't handle. If you don't do big crowds, you don't need to be going to the U Bar on a Friday night. And then complain about having bad service.
Or complain that it's too crowded. Like, that makes no sense. Yeah.
It's Friday, Saturday night. All these places, well, especially if they serving liquor and it's a pickup joint, perhaps, that
Yeah.
And then you complain about I had a horrible experience. I went to such and such a place and it was so crowded. Well, that's what happens on Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have to take that into consideration when we do this. Yes. So
that's definitely an interesting point. And then also, I didn't want to miss the point of talking about, like, with some of the riots that occurred. There was a lot of damage to a lot of Black-owned businesses, but some of it was aggravated by people who were not associated with the movement. I was a part of these movements, and I marched, of course, myself. And the common thing, because we had like a coordinator who coordinated the whole entire march, and he would say, "We're going to do this peacefully. There's not going to be any violence, what have you." And that occurred at many movements. And then you have, people who want to aggravate it and, maybe start. I remember a person who threw something at at a restaurant while we was out there, and that person was not associated with the movement at all. That they just came and did something and wanted to kind of incite violence, and that is an occurrence. So we have to look out for that too, and we don't need to kind of follow along with people who want to not see us win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I tell you.
Yeah, I think that kind of ties into even from the perception of like people who don't vote and then they want to complain about what people are not doing for them.
Yeah.
But they don't
Yeah.
vote, right?
That's true.
It's the same thing. Like there's some people who are agitators,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some people who are actually out there trying to really move the needle on these different things. Like this discussion that you guys are having right now is moving the needle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once again, it's not just about, some people, my grandma used to always say, some people are what you call lip sayers, meaning that they just have like all this mouth and they're able to go out and they're able to do this, and that's why they're able to hide their face, because of the fact that they know that what they're doing, they're not really doing it for any purpose. They're just doing it because of the fact that, hey, you know what? Now it's my opportunity to go burn down something I've always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
But there's no mission behind it. There's no mission behind it, right?
Yeah.
And as I think as a black race, we have to stop talking so much and just start showing people. The Bible says, the Bible says faith without works is dead, right? And it even goes even further to say, like, you show me your faith without works, and I'll show you my faith by my works, right? Meaning sometimes some things we have to just shut up, walk it out, and let God deal with the rest of it. And I think that even from a perspective, even talking about like Black Wall Street, I mean, it was them that burnt down our communities prior to this, right?
Yeah.
But now we can't even say that we have this opportunity, like we don't have the opportunity to rebuild everything that they burnt down. You know what I'm saying? Even in Georgia, Georgia's a perfect example. We have there's a African American family who just bought, I think, like over 200 acres, and they're getting ready to build like a whole community that is literally designed for the African American community. Black bank, black mayor, they want to make it its own city, right, in South Atlanta. Why can't we come together and support that? You know what I'm saying? Why can't we take black dollars and invest it into that to build that up? You know what I'm saying? Why can't we build our own Walmart? And we ain't got to call it Walmart, Black Mart, forget it, whatever you want to call it. But that's what I'm saying. Like when I say we have to rethink how we do things and stop talking about it and just do it, right? We got to stop having excuses for why we don't do it. We got to stop saying what the white man ain't trying to do for us. We don't need the white man to do anything for us anymore. I mean, we could do it for ourselves. We have enough power in our own community. We have enough wealth in our own community, and we definitely have enough smarts in our own community to get it done. And
Absolutely.
I think that even, when we think about Black History Month, I think back to our ancestors, right? They literally could not get an education. They were not allowed to learn how to write. They were not allowed to learn how to read. But they taught themselves because they felt like they needed to do that, and they did it because of the fact that they wanted to better their generations after them, right? We got to stop thinking about us in the right now. We got to start thinking about the children, our grandchildren, my nieces and nephews that come after me. How can we leave a better world for them than what we walked into, right?
Mm-hmm.
And stop without the lip service, and let's just get it done. And that involves like bringing our money back into our own community. That involves electing people who stand for us. That involves having communities where we have power in those communities, where we have people who look like us, who represent us. People like Trinice, who wants to actually go into politics. People like D.A. Brody. People like D.A. Herbert Hughes, D.A. Patsy, right? Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. We may not always agree with everything that they do, but at least we know that we have somebody who understands the community in which we come from.
Absolutely.
And they're working to try to better our community. Does that make, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And in this situation, as far as Black Wall Street goes, stands really closely because my great grandma actually was in those districts. Her family, she was in like all her people in that family in that actual district. And for the Dawes Rolls, my grandma, she was born actually on Indian reservation in Chickasaw Nation, right below Tulsa. So that's why I look at a lot of these situations, because our families talk about it and they tell us about it. So we kind of know these stories at a personal, real heartfelt level. And I look at it to say that because we romanticize today's time, and I think that's another problem we have. We try and think that everybody's just supposed to do it because, just because you're black, you're supposed to support black.
Yeah.
But in reality, we can't romanticize it, because even in the greatest civilizations we see on this earth, 100% of the community was never in it. It was always, they had an elite 20%, and everybody else was kind of just working around and doing what they're doing. So I think if we look at that perspective as well, if we took at least our 20% that are willing, really serious, to go and do some of that stuff, because they did it with less than 20% back then. So I feel like we have more money, like Sean touched on, more intelligence and all types of things now. So
We have more freedom. We actually have freedom. Yeah.
We could literally get way more than they got
Mm-hmm.
back then into this. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
I was thinking as you were speaking, I was just thinking about, you know, a number of some things came to mind about where we are today, and I had made mention about the various advances that we've accomplished thus far, and I posed the question because I just recently found out that there's an online bank with that Killer Mike and a couple others had just started recently, online banking. I forget the name of Greenwood Banking, right? Yes, mobile banking. Amen. So we're gonna go ahead. We want to go ahead and shout them out, tag them. But yes, so definitely we have to support them. Now, this is something that could have took place 30 years ago when you had. I really don't want to call any names, but you can name you can name some actors and actresses that have made a name for themselves who financially are in position to have put together a banking institution because they have the
Absolutely.
You know, if all you need is $10 or $20 million to make it happen, if you got. You have a number of people, both in athletes and in entertainment,
definitely.
That $1 million is nothing to them to give away, and collectively could have started a bank 35, 40 years ago.
I agree wholeheartedly.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, at least in the late 80s and into the 90s, and we're talking some big names here. You know,
there's another black. I think it's a mobile bank called One United Bank.
Yeah, One United.
Yeah.
It was interesting because when I was in California, I was in Compton, and they actually have a branch for that bank in Compton, and I was so shocked because I'm always getting emails from One United Bank. I was like, oh, now I got to put a face to it. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
Like you were saying, James, like we support all these other prepaid cards and all these other companies. We go out here and give our money to Green Dot every month. That's $4.95. Why can't we support Killer Mike's Bank?
Not you throwing out the price.
Hey, but that's that's real talk.
No, it is.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You know, and these are some of the things that we need to be doing generally, just on GP.
Yeah, no,
because it is a black-owned business and a financial institution, and yes, they're just getting these. You know, some of them have already been established, and you know, it's funny because being from California, I had never heard of Citizen Trust, and once I got here, that's when I found out that it was a black-owned bank. I'm like, well, wait a minute now. How come I had never heard of this before? But you know, you don't hear about them because no one, you know, they may or may not. Their advertising PR campaign may not be what it needs to be. Mm-hmm. Maybe New Corp needs to go see the president of that company and get them on board.
And that's a big thing too. Just get the resources out there.
Yes.
So a lot of times we always think common sense is so common. Oh, everybody knows that's a black-owned bank out there. But some people really don't. Some people legit just don't know about it because there's not enough exposure to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
And I'm from, I'm from the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But I think that one of the things I think we're going to do, and this is for as this video goes out, is on Nuvi Corp's website. I actually want to build a part that says "Shop Black," right?
Yeah.
And I want to be able to direct people to different, like the banks. I mean, and not just local banks, national banks that are out there that are black owned.
Yes.
I want to be able to direct people to where they can buy this washing powder I'm talking about. That is really good, by the way. I want to direct people to like every opportunity that we have to support black businesses. We have to get out there and support it, and especially in this climate, because there's so many of our black businesses that are being closed and shut down. Because as we know, one of the things that has affected our community the most, our Black Wall Street of this day is COVID, right? literally, it's COVID. And we've seen that a lot of black businesses, we talked about this, I think, our very first show, were not able to get the help that most white businesses get. Not because of the fact that they didn't qualify for it, because they didn't have the understanding of what they need to do prior to in order to put themselves in a predicament to get it, right?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's one of the things that we have to change too. We have to educate ourselves. We need to learn the system, educate ourselves on the system. Like, okay, I'm going to give you a prime example, and I'm going to have to get off, right? One of the prime examples is we had our ex-president, Donald Trump. There was an article that came out with him when he was in office talking about how he paid like maybe, I think, thousands of dollars in insurance. Wasn't that much. Like, I'm talking about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, right? But this man is a billionaire. How is it that he has all these hotels and he's only paying $2,000 to $3,000 or whatever it was, that small amount in taxes, right? That's because he learned the system. He works within the system. We don't do that, right? We don't know the system. We sometimes get hit with tax bills because we didn't know how to set up a tax account. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. We think that just because we get a piece of paper from the state that says you're in business, that's all we have to do. But we have to educate ourselves, know what the system is, and work through the system and learn the system so that we can use the system, right?
Yes.
And be able to get the resources that the system has out there, because there's a lot of resources that the system have out there for African American businesses, and we have to be able to apply it to our life. You know what I'm saying? Somebody once told me that, we always say knowledge is power, right? But somebody told me, they said it's not that knowledge is power. It's applied knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is power, which means that when you get the knowledge, when you put it to action, that's when it becomes power.
Yes.
But to have it and don't use it, it doesn't help us. It doesn't benefit us. So we got to get into the mentality of having applied knowledge and understand that when we apply our knowledge that we have, that's when it becomes power. And I'm going to close by saying this. It's funny that last year or 2 years ago, I think it was Zimbabwe or South Africa had a thing where they were calling all African Americans home. They said if you're African descent, we want you to come back home and visit. At least learn about what your culture is, right? And there were black people out there saying, "No, I ain't going to Africa. I don't have time for that." What? Yeah, you get it? You know what I'm saying? Like that mentality to not even want to know where we've come from.
Yeah.
To not even want to know our story. That's sad, right? We go to all these other islands. We'll go to Paris. We'll go to London. We'll go to Mexico and invest in their economies. But when it comes down to going back to Africa, we look at Africa and we think that, it's what we see on TV when they're always asking us for money. No, there's a whole bunch more to Africa than what we see on TV.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, everything that we get translates to Africa at some point. I'm talking about from gold to coal to oil, everything.
To our racial identity. Yeah.
So, but thank you guys for allowing me to call in.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for calling in. We appreciate it.
Keep the dream alive. Keep the dream alive, y'all.
Thank you.
All
right.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Again, that number is 678-638-6626 if you want to call in and ask questions or give your thoughts on the topic of the day, which is Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
People not knowing what's in Africa because just not being able to see it. If you look at most marketing budgets, like any company I've done business with, done marketing with, their biggest budget is in marketing. Because you can have the greatest product in the world, but if nobody sees it, it doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? That's how it is usually for Africa. There's so many beautiful places over there to visit.
Yeah.
Museums and everything.
Absolutely.
But if nobody sees it, because it's not marketed properly, it's like it becomes, whatever, whoever the most money to show what they want to perceive to be over there. It's a
negative net balance because the bad parts are marketed way more,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, I want to tell DISCO100, Disco Radio 100, thank you so much for your vision of your podcast, brother. It's an avenue for us to be able to have the topics that we have and be able to share with the people in our community all around the world. For those who are tuned in and everything. So thank you again to DISCO100 and all that, just putting this platform together and having it for us. I want to just say thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Africa, having lived in West Africa and Liberia myself, it is absolutely an absolute beautiful country. But there's work that needs to be done. from what I can remember. And I'm sure they've made some advances because that was 30, that was close to 30 years ago when I was there last. But even then, they've had a black president, they've had a female president since then, and so on and so forth. But it's also one of the war-torn countries where there was a lot of what do you call there was a lot of civil unrest, if you will, over the years in that country, and quite a few are. A lot of it has to do with various other outside entities that came into play that wanted to control the narrative of that country. And so you end up with civil wars, and a lot of them were plants and European westernized training.
Colonialism, all of that.
Oh yeah, westernized training, and so we have to take that into consideration when we think of Africa. That we have to understand that some of these regimes that are in power in that country, they had actually set up a puppet government for them to be able to do what they do. Exactly. Once they get over there. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it. There's a lot of countries, outside influences that go to your Liberias and Nigerias and South Africas and Algeria, Ethiopia, and come and take the resources. See, first it was the resources were humans. Now it's no longer humans. It's gold, silver, ore, diamond ores, uranium, and all the stuff that we use for our cell phones, and that make that help plutonium, and all that kind of stuff that goes into uranium, all that kind of stuff, and it's coming out of Africa. So we have to, when we look at India, China, the Dutch, Germany and whatnot, and how they established themselves within these countries, and continue to buy. And there's one of the things that these countries need to work out is not allowing these outside entities to come in and control what those resources. Yeah. When you have the perfectly good avenue of being able to control it yourself and do what needs to be done. So that's a topic for another day. We're going to do a little more research on that one. But I mean, that's just food for thought as we are about to close out on this day. Yeah. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. I want to say
something really quick before we close out. So speaking of that, a lot of those mining for the things that we put into the battery. So for like the electronic cars, for our phones, for the laptops, that is occurring in Africa. A lot of that is through forced child labor. So if you are watching, that's something that you need to look into, because it is just as big as any other big thing that's happening there. Because people are dying, specifically kids are being forced every day. We are fortunate to be able to wake up and go to school here as a child and then do whatever, but there you're being forced to work. And those type of minings for that is extremely dangerous. So that's something that we should also look into.
Definitely.
All right. So any closing thoughts, sir, before we close out?
Just to piggyback off of the Africa situation, they definitely established some committees on the West African side against France to create their own African dollar, which should be coming, I assume, in the near future, which I think that would be a great investment to actually get a currency. Then they can actually play into the larger economy of the world. So, yeah, definitely. That's something to look forward to.
All right. And I'd like to ask our host, Mr. DJ100, if he'd like to chime in on anything that we've talked about on today before we close out.
Well, I like the knowledge y'all giving everybody. But like you said, I didn't want to jump in. As we seem to just
You went out.
Little technical difficulties. We getting it right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what I was saying was, as us, sometimes we seem to just be so quick to give up on each other. I'm not saying we have to, bamboozle another race or another culture, but
Yeah.
it seems like if we go to another establishment, something go wrong, we'll go to their manager and ask for either, some kind of something. But with dealing with us, we won't say nothing, but go on social media, Yelp, and everything else, and just blast our brothers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Good point.
that was a good point y'all made about that.
Yeah.
I think we need to have more trust in our own people. And again, people of us, if you have a business, run it like that.
Yeah.
You can't expect people to support you just because you say you got a black-owned business,
Absolutely.
and you're gonna
true.
do something
Absolutely true.
halfway.
Yeah.
If you want our
Absolutely.
support, we're gonna support you, but you still gotta treat it
You gotta
like
treat
a
us
business.
fairly,
Don't think we're gonna
precisely.
support it just because it's black-owned.
That's right.
You gotta
That's right.
conduct it like a business. Answer
Yeah.
your phone.
Yeah.
If you put hours on your door, be there to open up that time.
On time.
You know,
On time.
Show me a receipt.
Yes.
Give me a guarantee.
Yeah.
Do that part, and I think we'll get a lot of more. We get so stuck on the fact I'm a black-owned business. Now everybody gonna come running.
Yeah.
Right,
Precisely.
right.
We
Yeah.
gotta be our biggest critic.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's
Like
so
I'm
true.
upset about the mic not working right now.
Yeah.
I'll be pissed off all day about it because it's my business.
Yes, sir.
So, good show. Appreciate
Thank you.
y'all.
Fantastic.
Appreciate you
Thank
having
you
us.
very much, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right. James Henderson with Newbie Corp and Black Push. On behalf of Newbie Corp and Black Push, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in with us on today. Look forward for us on our next weekend.
Yes. Saturday.
Next Saturday at 3 p.m.
Absolutely.
3 to 4, and we will be talking.
So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Specifically, we're going to be working with this podcast is more so a Newbie Corp deal. We did tie into a lot of Black Push, themes. But specifically, we're going to be working with, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be working with another entity in the government. So we're going to be speaking about a lot of different things, but we are going to be specifically talking about from the Newbie Corp perspective, redlining, and how did that affect us today, and what entailed that when it was in its height.
Wonderful. And on that note, folks, thank you for tuning in again. And once again, I'm James Henderson with Newbie Corp and Black Push. You all have a wonderful, blessed weekend.
All right.
Take care.